Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Whole Podcast KC, the Whole Person's Podcast. I'm Martin Callen. I work here in Employment Services. This is my esteemed co-host, Kirby Hough.
Hi, I'm Kirby Hough, and I am our Events and Volunteers Coordinator here at the Whole Person.
Behind the mic, we've got producer Andrew, a marketer, and producer John, an IT person. So you're probably asking yourself, what is the Whole Person? The Whole Person is a Center for Independent Living, which is a consumer-controlled, community-based, cross-disability organization that is run by people with disabilities. Here at the Whole Person, we have an over 50% disabled rate of the people who work here. And our mission is to, broadly speaking, connect people with disabilities to the resources they need. Today, we are having a very special episode that's going to celebrate someone very near and dear to the Whole Podcast, KC. It's Kirby Hough. She is on today to talk about the low vision experience. So, Kirby, let me ask you first and foremost, when were you diagnosed, and what was the diagnosis that made you join the low vision community?
Well, I was born with what's called optic nerve atrophy, which is the optic nerve is the main nerve from your eye to your brain, which helps transcribe detailed features of whatever you're looking at. And I was diagnosed at age 5. There was a long period of me having to wear glasses and going through all this different testing for them to determine that it's farther than the lens of the eye. Mm-hmm. It's the nerve behind the eye. So, regular doctors just put me in eyeglasses for the longest time. And then I was in kindergarten, I believe, and a teacher smiled at me across the room, and she was looking at me, no reaction, even with the glasses. And so then we went on to more, not surgeries, more testing. And further, I think we ended up doing an MRI of my brain, and they noticed that there was not an optic nerve.
Wow. There's no optic nerve?
It just...
Or it's atrophied. I guess that's what optic nerve atrophy probably means.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I think, like a lot of your teachers, probably, listener, you and I perhaps assume that vision problems originate in the eye, but this is a brain condition, huh?
Well, it's a nerve.
Okay. It's a nervous system condition rather than...
It's just the nerve that goes from the eye to the brain.
So your peepers aren't physically different than a sighted person's peepers then?
Well, yes, but it's not anything you can tell by looking at them, but it's just like behind the eye. Yes.
Yeah, and there's no prescription because obviously it's almost like an information relay rather than...
Exactly. You'd have to, potentially stem cell could regrow that nerve, but there just hasn't been enough, studies on it yet that I'm comfortable with.
Sure.
So...
we were at a bowling event, and that we were basically acting and making sure that the bowling alley was providing things to make bowling an accessible activity to blind and low vision people. So what that looked like today was having the bumpers up, and additionally there were some PVC railings, and I was unclear if we provided these or the bowling alley did.
So, I need to start over with, we used to go to a different bowling alley, and they had those rails. And then we made our own set. And then also one of the guys that was there today, he made a set as well because they became very popular once we all found out about them. And they are very helpful. For me, because I'm low vision, I can still see well enough to approach, the right spot to where you release the ball. But for people have more vision loss, don't know exactly where to go. So it just kind of helps them guide them exactly to the point of where they need to be to let go of the ball. So we bring those in and set those up.
Listener, I'm sighted, and today at the bowling alley, one thing that occurred was a blind person threw the ball down the lane, and it essentially got caught between the bumper and the gutter, and it was stuck. And it essentially Kirby had lost track of the ball. So that's what a low vision experience is. So a bowling ball, a pink bowling ball, 9.5 feet away was not something that she could discern. So do you think that is a nice example of the low vision experience?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And it's because it was like not necessarily the same color, but it blended in. It wasn't neon or anything extravagant so that I could see the difference. I saw it go off to the right, but then after that, I lost track.
Yeah, and so obviously we're bowling with people who don't get to bowl very often. It's not something they will have done in a gym class, for instance, which is where I learned my bowling form. I have a lifetime high score of 140, by the way, listener. So people new to the bowling experience might not know. One thing I saw today was when to release the ball. So, for instance, somebody would be conceptually familiar with what bowling is: take the heavy ball, huck it down the lane, hit the pins, and take score based on that. But the technique for throwing it is not something that they've been introduced to. So what I saw today was people releasing it kind of at the zenith of their swing, and without the visual cue of your lane, like the structure thereof, they were throwing it kind of to the left or the right, and that's how we ended up in that situation where
Yeah.
the ball
I
got
think that happened a
stuck.
couple
The ball
times.
did get stuck a couple times, and the people down at Casey Bowl in Kansas City, Kansas, accommodated us very well and simply went and got the ball. Never made any fuss about it at all. So thank you to Casey Bowl for that activity this afternoon. As I understand, blind low vision bowling is a monthly activity.
It is, but when I first started here, almost a year ago, I was our blind low vision specialist, and then I transitioned to our events and volunteers coordinator in, I believe, beginning of October. Um, so then we then hired a blind low vision specialist who now takes over most of those roles. However, I still do go with her to bowling because she's completely blind, and we're still learning on navigating that bowling alley just because it's large and there's lots of things in the way
Yeah.
that she's still learning to navigate.
Kids
But
running around.
yeah,
Is there any regularity with that schedule that we'd like to share now with our listeners?
sure.
Third Wednesday.
Yep, third Wednesday of every month. The whole person actually pays for the first game and shoes. And then if they decide they want to stay and play more, that's up to them. But yeah, so when I first started with the blind low vision bowling, I just decided that we should open it up to all of our consumers. So typically we have more than we only had 4 today, but it's pretty cold and snowy out. So typically we do have a couple of like wheelchair users or that join us as well.
Okay. I hadn't realized today that it was just kind of open to all people with disabilities. And is that an event that you will pre-register for, or do you show up?
No, you can just show up unless you need help with like transportation. Sometimes we help people get out there because it is a ways. And we ask for RSVPs for that because we have to schedule drivers and whatnot. But typically they can just meet us out there. We send out an email. I think it's on our website calendar as well.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Go to Casey Bowl on the third Wednesday of the month at noon if you're trying to bowl with the whole person. I would also like to add that was very fun. I had a good time today. I did not switch my shoes out. I was just telling producer Andrew and yourself before we started recording that my new boots are falling apart. Maybe it's all this salt, but I've got boots that are falling apart. I need a cobbler. So listener, third Wednesday, go bowling. And also if you are a cobbler, please come to the whole person. Okay, let's dive right in, Kirby. I'm going to start asking you some hard-hitting gotcha questions.
All right. Let's do it.
I'm going to finally take you down in front of all these people. Okay, I'd like to start with an issue that you were talking to me off the air about recently, which is Instagram, a website that I personally, I'm proud to say I never made one. I got hooked by all the other social medias at one point or another, but I never had an Instagram. But you were telling me that there is a glaring accessibility problem with an Instagram feature called Reels. Would you like to elaborate on that at all?
Well, it's the stories.
Stories.
Yeah, so the stories are just like a clip or a photo that you can post and it lasts for 24 hours, I think, and then it goes away.
Like a Snapchat.
Yeah, exactly, essentially. So people post these about like whatever during that day. So it's not going to be there for you to go back and look at again. It's not going to be on their, on their, I don't know. I'm so used to using the word wall from Facebook,
Sure.
So on their main profile, it won't be there. It'll be gone. So you have to click on it and then it appears and then it goes away. And you can go and look at it again. But essentially it's going to be there for like 8 seconds or something and then it goes away. Well, when I'm on my phone, I use what's called zoom to zoom in to see the detailed features because, again, that's what I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And so to do that gesture on an iPhone, you have to do a 3-finger double tap. Well, when you tap these, it goes to the next one, like the next person or if they had another one for that day. So it makes it pretty impossible for me to see what's going on. So I only check my close friends. So it's like maybe 10 people like that I look at because it's such a hassle.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to miss out on anything, Like
So it's the third party app Zoom doesn't function on this because of the taps you need to use.
yeah, it would
Are
be
there any built-in accessibility features to Instagram? I know famously you can't zoom in on Instagram, correct?
I mean, I don't know because I don't use the normal zoom in feature. I use the 3-finger double tap, which is an iPhone accessibility option.
Okay, so it's built into the iPhone rather than
Three
being an
finger,
okay,
what I
cool.
use, yes. But on Instagram, then I have to take a screenshot and then zoom in and look at whatever's happening in the photo or the video. But obviously, video, you can't really screenshot it and then see what's happening because things are moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit annoying. But we're all learning. We'll get there someday where everything is accessible.
Have there been any cultural moments? The one that comes to my mind, Pokemon Go, anything like that that has just been totally inaccessible to you?
I actually played Pokemon Go during the pandemic because there was nothing else to do. And the area town I live in had a bunch of I don't even remember what they're called.
Stops, I believe.
Yeah, and then like where you do like the fights and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I played that. I don't think I had too many issues, but I didn't last for very long because I was like, really, okay, I'm over this. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, Snapchat, of course, is the same way. If you tap it, it'll go away or it'll go to the next one. And then if you screenshot on Snapchat, that person then knows, which all my friends on there know, like, oh, she's screenshotting it because she can't see what's going on.
Let us, in our minds, take a travel through time to a time before we had smartphones. What was the low vision experience like on a flip phone, a brick phone, a Nokia?
So I use assistive technology, and it's called a video magnifier, or a CCTV was like the first name back in the day. And I had, it was similar looking to my iPad here, but much larger. But I would have to put the phone underneath. So how this works is there's a camera. The camera, then you put paper, whatever image you want to look at, on under the paper, and then it then enlarges it onto the screen. And then at that point, you can increase, decrease the font size or the image to see what's happening in the photo, or like if it's a form or whatever. So I had to put my phone under that to be able to read or see whatever's going on.
So texting on the go wasn't an option for you in these dark stone
Well,
ages.
I did, but I would have to be at home because these machines, now I have an iPad that does the same thing, and I can, transport it quite easily. But back then, the machine had to stay at my apartment, or, when I was in college or high school, or at home. So I couldn't check it out while I was out and about. I'd have to wait till I got home to then check it. But I also had like a handheld little tiny magnifier so that I could use it, but it's just so much eye strain and headaches, it's not even worth it. But I did get really good at memorizing like T9 texting.
Sure.
So I just like know how many times to hit the to button, It's not easy, but you have to text.
Well, I'd love to hear someday the rotary phone experience for a blind, low vision person, but we'll have to to get an older one.
Yeah.
All right, that's really interesting. But that's your use of your iPhone. So what about, for instance, a home computer? And I'm sure now the software exists, but was there a time where, for instance, you didn't have a laptop that could consistently do what you needed it to do for you? And I'm not just talking about general tech problems. We've all had laptops that were pieces
Right.
of crap.
Well, I just think, it's just all such a learning process for everyone to know what would be the best, what suits that person the best. I don't think I had magnification on a computer until like middle school or something. And I just used what was already on its accessibility option on a computer. On PC, it's called Magnifier. Um, and it basically docks a magnifier to the top of your screen. And below where it's docked is regular sized font. So I would use my mouse to then navigate on the screen where I wanted to read or what I needed to read, and then I moved my eyes up to look at the top of the screen. You see my computer here.
Mm-hmm.
I actually still use that same thing because I got so used to using it that way that I can't use a full screen because I'm like, where am I? Um, and it's just easier for me because that's just what I got used to.
What about movies and television?
Yeah, not great. So at home, I have a projector actually in my living room. It's 110 inches. But again,
Brag about it.
not at all. Well, the thing, actually, that wasn't exactly a vision thought. My living room's long, and like TVs, just they all looked small, and so I was like, let's do a projector, and it's great, it works. But again, like if there's detailed things, I have to be pretty close to still see the detailed
So are you
things.
not
But
able to watch, for instance, a foreign film because subtitles aren't accessible to you?
right. Yeah, I started I can't remember what show it was, and it was, like, all English first season, and the second season went to, like, Spanish or something, and I was like, "No, I'm not even," because there is what's called, audio description. Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
heard of that? So it
Yes.
then reads everything, but it's just so much to, like, watch and then listen, and I'm not really much of a TV watcher in general.
Makes sense. It doesn't sound like a very accessible medium to you.
But in my bedroom, I have a large TV on a
Wall mount?
yes. On a wall mount, and it moves, and so I can then pull it as close as I want, so then I can see really well. But
Do you risk extra eye strain or damage when you use screens at that proximity for that long?
yeah, they always said that when we were kids.
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm wondering. If is that just a myth?
yeah, I
Oh,
don't
you can just
know.
put your face right in the TV.
I did,
Good to know.
but before my I was 5 before my parents knew that I was visually impaired,
Mm-hmm.
and so I would sit real close to the TV, and they weren't understanding why. And then they would sit me on the couch to watch a movie with like cousins and stuff, and I'd like get up and wander off and go do something else. And they're like, "What is wrong with her?" And I
So,
couldn't understand why they were making me sit on the couch.
so there was no onset for optic nerve atrophy.
No, I was born with it.
Has the condition changed over the course of your life?
No,
All right.
yeah, I'm very blessed that it will not change.
I'm glad to hear that. All right, shifting gears a little bit. How, in your mind, or to the best of your knowledge, does a typical, normal wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, eat lunch, go back to work, clock off, go home, hang out day, how does a normal day differ from a sighted person?
It depends on the day and what I have going on, but typically going to work and all of those things. I've lived now in my condo for 7 years, so I have everything memorized. I know I could find anything in the dark just because
Mm-hmm.
I put things in a certain order, so I know where everything is. So it's not really that difficult in the mornings, getting ready, unless I am doing like makeup, like I had to do today. Um, Typically, I just do makeup by feel, but I always ask, okay, does it look okay? I have to ask somebody, and then I think that, and I always tell people that I work with, I'm like, if anything is ever like messed up, you can tell me. It's fine. I will not be offended. And I
Mm-hmm.
think people are like, I don't know. No one's really ever told me anything. I'm like, there's no way that I could have gotten away
Quick
with
aside,
nothing
my
wrong.
my dad always tells this story, and I'll regale you, listener, with it. He had a coworker who, on his last day in an art space, put a big wad of rubber cement in his mustache, just to see if anybody would notice. And nobody said anything. It looked like a big booger in his mustache.
Yeah,
And nobody
right.
said anything to him. And he said that that is how he knew nobody at that job actually cared about him. So, listener, I implore you, if you ever see Kirby with a big old booger in her mustache, let her know.
Please. Yeah, that's embarrassing. I know. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, gosh, there's no way. But
More on just the day-to-day questions. You said that there's a place for everything in your apartment. Is that your natural disposition to keep everything so ordered, or is it something that you have to do to reduce chaos?
I think that my mom taught me this, or you know how moms are about cleanliness and
No, I have a
whatnot.
messy mom. I don't know what you're referring to. Continue.
um, so yeah, I think it's just, I never there's so many different types of rehabilitation places that people with low vision can go to and learn like daily skills, like how to do different things. But I never really had that. I grew up in a small town and went to a small college. And so I never really had that opportunity to do anything like that. So I just taught myself how to do certain things. Like nowadays, for example, they have level indicators. So you put it on your cup and it'll vibrate or beep once the cup is almost full. And I'm like, no, you use your finger, right? Like it's free and it
Oh,
works just as
so
well.
is it a cup with that technology built in, or do you put it
No,
on
no,
the
no.
cup?
It's just something you put on the edge of the cup. It just rests there. But
Cool.
yeah. So I mean, in general, yeah. I keep everything very organized. I know exactly where everything's at. It just makes my life easier. Otherwise, I have to get out a magnifier and try to read labels, and that's never fun.
Well, I am sorry to say that my apartment is not a very accessible space for
I
blind
wouldn't be
low
able to
vision.
find anything.
I live in just kind of a tornado. Um, all right. So let's talk about transportation. So I understand that most people in the blind low vision community cannot operate vehicles on the road.
That's correct.
So what accommodations, what systems are in place in Kansas City specifically for people to get around? Or is it just you foot the bill to Uber all day?
There's a couple of different options. There's always the bus, but I've had a few not great experiences. So I started using another program called Share Fare. So this was like 10 years ago or so. And this was before Ubers or Lyfts or anything was around. So how this worked is that you okay, say I had to be at work at 8. I'd have a pickup time between 7 and 7:30, and then you had to allow 30 minutes, even though if it weren't even 30 minutes away, you still wanted to allow that much time to get to work. Well, name of the game is share fare. It's going to be picking up people, dropping off people as it's picking you up as well. So you really never knew what time you were going to get somewhere. Um, Typically you were on time, but not always. And so that was okay for a while. And then they came up with a better system about, just a few years after that, which is another door-to-door service you call to schedule. And if you're going under 5 miles, it's only $5. But if you go beyond that, it's $2 each additional mile. So it's fine if you're not going far. But if you're going much farther than that, it can be pricey.
Well, I've definitely found working in employment services that it's the biggest barrier because somebody might have an ideal job, but it's going to cost them $25 both ways. And
Yeah.
it's just so this system you're describing, is that a specific service for people with disabilities, or is it just
Yes. So I
okay.
believe ShareFare and the other one I was referring to, I think it's called Casey Freedom Ride on Demand or something. You have to have like a legitimate disability reason not to drive.
Ride Casey Freedom? Well, I just say because I have to
It's such
retype
a
it
long
every time I
name.
try to look it up because
Yeah.
I mix up where the freedom and the KC and the ride go. So that is what you do on a typical day just to get to and from work?
Well, I actually don't use any of those services. So we have, as you know, we have transportation department here. Um, so let's see. No, they take me home at night in the evenings or at the end of the day. Um, and then in the morning, our CEO Michael's assistant Kendra picks me up.
Oh, cool. Listener, Kendra's great. Any of you would
amazing.
be happy to go to work every morning with Kendra. This is an amazing perk of the job that I didn't know Kirby got that I don't.
Well, but prior to that, like I was Ubering every day,
Mhm.
but Ubers are so inconsistent with pricing and if they're available. So again, you never really know when you're going to get one. It'll say 10 minutes and then I'll be like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to wait until I'm ready." Or, 10 minutes from being ready. And then by then it's 20 minutes away. Or you just
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah,
And then
and
the pricing is all over the place too. And it was like, I was paying like 600 or something. And I only live a mile and a half from here.
mhm.
So,
600 a month?
mhm.
Oh my gosh. Listener, if you have experience with Ride KC Freedom, then you're probably familiar with the fact that at present they have a labor shortage. And so rides have become very inconsistent. Like you
Right.
might get canceled on within, 20 minutes of even pulling it up. All right. So we are going to hop over to an ad break and you're going to learn about some tasty treats here at the Whole Person. Do take them up on that. It does taste very good.
Delicious.
At TWP Catering, we are more than just mouth-watering sandwiches and salads. We're on a mission to make a difference.
How do we do this? By empowering individuals with disabilities to learn essential cooking skills through our Employabilities program.
Every bite you take supports a brighter future for someone striving to be more competitive in the job market.
TWP Catering, where every sandwich, salad, and dessert serves a purpose. Order with us and make a positive impact today. It's catering with the social conscious. What incredible advertisements. It's a shame there were so few of them. That's just about all we have for you today at the Whole Podcast KC. But first, we'd like to give you a quick rundown on some upcoming events that you or someone you know could attend. We have, and they're especially relevant because we're going to highlight our blind low vision events. On the first Monday of February, on the 5th, we are going to have our Mind's Eye View peer support group. Will you tell us a little bit about that, Kirby?
Absolutely. So our support groups for blind low vision are all on Zoom. Mostly because of transportation purposes for people who can't drive. So if you're interested, you can always join us on socials, and then we'll email you the links and all the info. But Mind's Eye View is a consumer-driven support group. So it just kind of brings everyone together to discuss topics that they all can understand and where each other come from. And then also I've noticed too, like a lot of people will, mention something that they struggle with, and then somebody else has a solution for. And then the second Monday of the month, we have
February 12th.
Yes, we have what's called Tech Talk, which is basically we have Megan and I try to get a guest speaker to introduce a new service or that's something that would be beneficial to people with low vision. So it just kind of depends on the month.
And a quick little vocab lesson. Here at the Whole Person, we almost always say consumer. And what a consumer is just people whom the whole person serves. So if you're a client in any capacity, you're a consumer. It's not a comment on your purchasing habits. Okay, and then be sure, of course, on the third Wednesday of the month to come out to KC Bowl in KCK and join us for Time to Spare Bowling. All right. Any other questions from you at home? You at the other side of the table?
If you have any questions about any of this, all of this is on our website calendar. And also be sure to follow us on all of our socials. We got the Facebook, the Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you can imagine, we're on.
All right. That about does it. Thank you so much for joining us for this first episode. We hope to see you in the second. Have a good one. Bye.